I just love and will love as I continue entertaining more people of more diversity from everywhere. And that makes me happy. There is no aisle that separates people when I'm performing. And in the work I do, I don't want there to be separation because funny is funny. It's really quite meaningful to bring entertainment to people, and often entertainment, if I can, that has meaning behind it.
Welcome to the Shine Strategy Podcast, where entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business owners are getting visible and changing the world. I'm your host, Heather Burgett, an award-winning publicist, entrepreneur, and business mentor. Today's show is sponsored by PR Stars. For more inspiration and Shine strategies, head over to shineinsiders.com now for my free masterclass so that you too can get visible and go from local to global. Hello, Shine Insiders. It's time for some shout outs before we get started here. And this is a part of the show that I love doing because it allows me to connect with you directly. And I love hearing what's working for you, what your takeaways are, what you want more of. And it just lets us know we're on track and that we're delivering what we're setting out to do here, which is mainly inspire people. So let's see. Let's start here with Brian Pataka. He gave us 5 stars and says, "Spiritual entrepreneurs unite." Heather does a great job of balancing entertaining you while digging deep into helping you further your mission and make a greater impact. And she has the best guests in all caps. Thank you, Brian. I'm glad you're enjoying them as much as I have been. Gosh, today is going to blow your socks off too. We've got a good one. So it's been quite the journey in terms of booking the guests, getting them here, and just having a wonderful experience with them on the show. And I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it as well. And let's see, we also have one here from Sasha Swift, also 5 stars. And she says, "Heather inspires spiritual growth. Heather has had such a huge impact in my life, more than she will ever know. She keeps me focused on positive energy and believing in myself. My life has actually changed a great deal since being introduced to her. Her content continues to inspire me and keeps me striving for success. She has also opened my eyes to my purpose in life, not only being about my own needs, but also being there for others and having a positive impact on the world and those around me." That is so beautiful, Sasha. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that really warms my heart because that's what we're here to do. That's what this is all about. So thank you for listening. For those of you that haven't yet dropped a rating or review, please go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as long as iTunes is around at least, and drop us that review. And we'll work on getting you a shout out too. All right, let's dig in. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We have Bob Saget. I am so excited about having him here as a guest. And there's so many things that this man does that I think you might even be surprised today after learning more about him and all of his incredible work. Most of you know him from his work in TV, from Full House to America's Funniest Home Videos. And he's also been on Broadway in the Tony Award-winning The Drowsy Chaperone. He has a New York Times best-selling book, Dirty Daddy, The Chronicles of a Family Man Turned Filthy Comedian. He's directing now. His film Benjamin was just released as the first Redbox original release. He's the host, writer, and executive producer of the new ABC series, Videos After Dark. And his work is just absolutely incredible. And I was so inspired when I met him again for the second time, actually, just recently at one of his fundraisers. We had the opportunity of meeting when he premiered Benjamin at the Beverly Hills Film Festival. And then he has this incredible event that he does every year, actually in a number of cities, Cool Comedy Hot Cuisine. And it's a star-studded night with comics. The one in LA had Dave Chappelle, Ray Romano, performance by John Mayer. And all of this is to benefit the Scleroderma Research Foundation. He's a board member. He does a lot of work for them. To date, they have raised over $40 million for the SRF. You've seen him everywhere. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce everyone to Bob. Thank you for being here today, Bob. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sorry my intro is so long, we're out of time.
I I know, and that was hard to cut it down. I'm like, he has done so many.
Thank you. It's hearing my credits is always my favorite thing.
Yeah, how is that? Is it surprising sometimes when you're like, wait, I did all that?
No, I was going to mention more things, but no, I want everybody now to read their bio.
Okay, let's start.
Let's get into LinkedIn. I just wish they would stop sending me emails. I don't want to get LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh.
It was nice to hear from you, and our connection is through the benefit that you were so gracious to help us with. And the Scleroderma Research Foundation is something that I'm incredibly close to for 30 years now. I actually hosted the first benefit. I performed the first time with two then unknown comedians, Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres, and it's very fascinating. Then I ended up with television shows, and it was a cold call from the founder, Sharon Monsky, who we lost, I guess, 15 years ago. And this organization's been around because she started it. She asked Robin Williams to do it, and he did it the first time. And then it's been, my God, I don't know if we've done 50 of them, 60, I don't know, but it's really raised a lot of money that goes right to research at Johns Hopkins and Stanford, and we've worked with Duke and UCSF to try to put the disease in remission and cure this disease that affects hundreds of thousands of people. And we're doing it. We're actually making severe progress. That doesn't sound good. We're making very great strides in finding the cure and stopping it from progressing. So I'm very proud. That's probably one of the things, besides my children, that I'm proudest of.
It's so beautiful. And I loved really seeing how you rallied a whole community behind you. I mean, it was really touching. I mean, I had tears in my eyes at the event because there was just so much love there for you and what you're doing. You can see the connection you have with your friends. And can you talk a little bit about that in terms of how these friendships have played a role for you in your life?
Well, there's a certain bond that I was just talking about with George Shapiro last night, who is Jerry Seinfeld's manager. He was one of the exec producers of Seinfeld. He's also was Andy Kaufman's manager. I mean,
Wow.
Miraculous Yoda-like man. And I don't mean that he's short and green. I mean, he's very, very smart. And he really just said it, that people want to do good for people, especially when it's a disease that is so under-recognized. Bad English. I'm not a grammar man, but I went years ago to Washington, and we rallied, and it was under the time of the Clintons. At the time, we were being helped by Hillary because it was a woman's disease. Scleroderma mainly affects women in the prime of their lives, and there's a huge African descent population. People of African descent seem to get it worse than people of different persuasions because it affects huge Asian population. It's an amazing it's amazing where it hit. Even at this benefit, we had an 11-year-old boy came up and spoke, and he had the disease. And when you see a child, obviously your eyes don't stop tearing up.
Yes, that was powerful.
And the bravery of the people. And so we are there for those people. I lost my sister to scleroderma in 1994, and then I made a movie about it on ABC called For Hope. It starred Dana Delaney, and it was the first exposure scleroderma had. It was the first time it was put on the map in a big PR way. And we haven't stopped at that PR. And we always try to get it out there because it's such an important part of how you raise money for things. But in Washington, people are very competitive. Why are you helping the cystic fibrosis people? And it's like, wait a minute, we should all be curing everything. It's very hard, especially now, to get money from the NIH. They just don't have as much to go around. And Sharon always believed it's because it was a woman's disease that it was underfunded. But we're funding it, and we have an amazing board, and we'll be doing benefits. We're doing one in New York in November, December, whenever we do it, and we'll do LA again in a year and a half or something, and we may do San Francisco also. And comedians rally together. That's what it is, and I help whatever friends I have that are doing a benefit for someone or something or a disease, and then especially the downtrodden that are sick or have been just broke. And this is one that comedians are really happy to do because you can let loose at this too. As you saw, it was a pretty open party.
That they did. They let loose.
Well, John Mayer wasn't even supposed to be there, but he helps us every year, and he often has performed. And he texted me. He said, "I can't not be there tonight." Next thing I know, I've got Dave Chappelle, John Stamos, and John Mayer on stage, and we're yelling at people to give us money.
It was beautiful. I loved it. And so, was that an impromptu performance, or that hadn't been planned?
Oh, that was nothing's prepared except that I know that Ken Jeong and Ray Romano and Dave Chappelle are going to perform.
Right.
And Dave, because we didn't lock the phones up, because that's his process, did a half an hour of ad-libbing and then a little bit of material, but not really. He's just this special gift.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was brilliant to see him in action.
He's brilliant. I mean, he's getting the Mark Twain Prize. So I'm very fortunate in that the comedian community is more banded together now because of the way the world is than they ever have been. And I came up in 1978 out at the Comedy Store in LA, where the people that were there, David Letterman was my first MC, and literally everybody was there. I was Billy Crystal and Richard Pryor, who I became friends with and did a movie with, and Michael Keaton. I mean, it's unbelievable, the who's who. And now the Comedy Store is as popular as it was then. It doesn't have all of those stars because it was just an anomaly of a moment in time. But now the world needs comedy more than ever because there's so much separation and anger. And I like to entertain people. So whatever form that medium is, whether it's my stand-up tour or making a movie or doing another television show, which I am, and all the different stuff that I just keep doing is all bent on getting out a good message, even if, it's my R-rated stand-up that's not even as R-rated because I'm 63 now and I can't go around making my daughters not proud of me, although they always have been. So they never mind.
Yeah. I mean, can we talk a little bit about that? Because firstly, I just want to say I'm so sorry to hear about your sister. And I really appreciate you sharing, so much of your story and, the reason why you're doing this. Because I do think that's what's so important for people to have is a reason behind what they're doing. And, when you have such a powerful purpose like you do, I can see why you've had the impact you've had.
Well, I intend to cure it, and I've talked to many brilliant scientists. I'll be talking to people because we have the most amazing scientific advisory board. And can I give the website so I can?
Yes, please do. Tell people where to go, how to help.
It's easy. It's srfcure.org, and S stands for scleroderma, and R stands for research, and F stands for foundation. So it's srfcure.org. And you can get all the info about our benefits, how to help, what it is, because more people seem to be getting it. And we don't know if it's environmental. It's an autoimmune disease, but it's also a blood disease. It's a vascular disease. And often patients lose their lives to pulmonary hypertension, which is the lungs give out and the esophagus. And the symptoms,
wow.
You can tell when a person has scleroderma. You can usually see physically the tightening of the skin. And often people like it because it's like, oh, I got a facelift unless it doesn't stay in that mode and progresses. And that's the scariest. And then my sister's progressed it incredibly. It just was at such a fast rate. And she was totally misdiagnosed and mishandled by a rheumatologist who is no longer alive. And he did terrible. They just guinea pig people. Whereas now I talked to Fred Wigley, who runs the Johns Hopkins Scleroderma Center, and he said that we're so close in our lifetime we will find a cure. And the cure means you're able to give people meds that stop the disease from progressing. And that will go hand in hand with cancer moments, that moment when a scientist is looking over in a telescope. In the telescope, why would he do that? Looking at the moon, in a microscope, and he or she would go, aha, everybody gather around. And that's that miracle that you see in one of these great science movies of how they cured blank. And this is going to be one of those things. And I'm a small drop in the river that will have helped. And we'll keep doing it because it's not being done by the government, and so we're a private organization that is bent on research, and that's that. So I help other stuff too. There's so many. I lost another sister to a brain aneurysm, so it's like you could spend your whole life just doing events or benefits to try to raise money for all of these people that are hurting so bad with so many things.
And I'm so sorry to hear that. And the fact that you're able to use what I like to say, like your superpowers for good, so to speak, here is just so incredible because not everyone can do what you're doing. And it would be so nice for people to hear a little bit about kind of the behind the curtain, like how we have so many entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners here in the community. And just hearing your story, I think, is going to help a lot of people. I mean, first, we're talking about the power of connection and friendships and personal networking. You've got the power of events to raise awareness for somewhat unknown causes that can become very well known, the power of publicity, and you have this amazing personal platform where you're using this awareness, your visibility for good. Can you speak a little bit to how you've also maintained, because you have a really interesting story in the fact that you kind of had this personal brand that was very wholesome, and then you shifted more to this edgier brand of comedy. So how do you think that
I never
worked?
switched. I was always that. What people don't understand is
Okay.
Hannibal Lecter doesn't actually eat people. And Hopkins was playing a part, and
Right.
Danny Tanner is a part of me. I'm a father. I do have a dustbuster. I do use it, but I've played many parts that people aren't aware of. But when you do a role on television, or if you're a host of a show on television, like the video show, which I'm going back in mid-season, it's coming on ABC at 10 o'clock at night because it's a little bit for more adults. When you do something for a long time, they think that's who you are. And it is part of who I am. I'm just, as many people, as most of us are, we're multifaceted. We don't just do one thing. If someone is a great builder and they work construction all day and then they go home and to relax, they have a beer and paint, and then you find out that their art is astonishing, and it's like they laid bricks to make money. It's kind of like I've got 5 things that I do. I always say I do 5 things, none of them well, but I'm very proud more now than ever. I used to get made fun of for playing Danny Tanner. What a softie, and what's his deal? And he's just wearing those sweaters that glow in the dark, and they were late 80s. But and the show continued. It's got its last season coming up on Netflix, the Fuller House that I've been doing. And it's a testament for family, for how family sticks together through hard times. And the hard times are loss of a parent. And that's what the new show and the old show is based on, which is similar to Disney movies where there's no mom often or no dad, but it's usually there's no mom, and King Triton is raising Ariel. Belle's father's raising her. You don't know the moms, and it's how do people, and it helps people connect with their children with their parents, if it's accepted as a group viewing, which is one of the biggest compliments I've ever had in my career, is something that people that are older would make fun of. Even when we did Full House back in the day, people made fun of it tremendously. It never got a good review, and it didn't do well in the ratings until the last 4 years when it was on Fridays. And it's really about a fantasy world where people really are there for each other. And it shouldn't be a fantasy world, but it's, unfortunately, in many cases, it really can be. And in this case, I'm proud to have played the part. But my stand-up, I started at 17 years old. And the first thing I ever did, that I won a radio contest singing a song about bondage. And, that's not what you would hear from a 17-year-old. And then I kept doing stand-up for all these years, over 40 years. And it's changing. It's morphing. With the way the world has changed, there's a lot of stuff that I would never do that I did on specials that was on HBO, different platforms. And it's just, I'm finding new ways to do new things that still carry the same message, which is I want to entertain people. I just get a young audience sometimes. So that also, people would go, oh my God, I can't believe Danny Tanner is doing this kind of stuff. It's like, I'm not Danny Tanner. I've been on Broadway as a priest. I was, as a Lutheran minister who was the least foul person in the play. It was called Hand to God, a Tony-nominated play, and it was a wonderful thing to have been able to do for several months, Broadway. And in another place, too, just people didn't know it was me because they only thought I was that. And that's fine. It's all fine. People can perceive whatever they want. But I've got I have a really nice chapter of my life coming up now where a lot of things are coming toward me, and I'm getting to do different kinds of parts and different kinds of hosting that I have a facility for, that I get to incorporate my stand-up persona, which doesn't mean I'm talking dirty, but it just means it's like Groucho Marx with innuendo, because at the time, you couldn't really get away with stuff. But if Groucho was alive and flourishing today, it'd be a lot of puns. They call them dad puns. They didn't used to, but that's the millennial catchphrase because it's coming from someone older. But a pun is very valuable, and most comedy comes from puns. And people don't realize that they're telling puns. If there's a foul word in it, then they don't consider it a dad joke. It's so funny. Anyway, I'm just moving along as a creative person in what I do.
Well, it's beautiful to see how you've been able to morph into, all these, it's all you, but it's different audiences that you're speaking to, and they're so different, yet they all still resonate with you. And that's so fascinating. It just shows that you're a very dynamic person. And there are a lot of people listening here that are probably starting out early on in their careers. Based on your experience and where you're at in your life, some people get frustrated along the way. Would you have any advice to give to them today?
For sure. I have 3 daughters that are 32, 29, and 26. And all through my 20s, all I did was struggle. I was in one Richard Pryor movie, which was a big deal, but it's not a career. But I got to be with Richard Pryor and an amazing cast like Joe Mantegna and just tons of people that I admired. And I was fresh, and I was in a Rodney Dangerfield special on HBO, but that was like 8 years of hosting the Comedy Store in LA and getting paid, but very little. And then I was always touring. I was always doing stand-up, a lot of musical stand-up, which I still do, write comedy songs. But the advice, and I was so depressed in my 20s, beyond depression, but I wasn't medicated for it. I just did what comics do. You just suffer until something breaks through. And so things did happen for me. And I guess the advice I would give would be what Rodney Dangerfield told me, which is, because he really he was a stand-up success. He was on Tonight Show a lot, but that was it. He was doing Vegas and the Tonight Show and touring the country. But he really didn't happen until Caddyshack when he was 58 years old. And his advice to me was just go like a tank, man, just like a And he would just go, they try to stop you. Nobody wants you to make it. They're all against you, but go like a tank.
I love that.
And that was kind of the advice that you just go. And if you're an actor and you get the call that or if you go and make a business proposition, if you're living a Shark Tank reality, you come up with an invention, you try 9 places to sell it and it's not selling, reevaluate and don't let it affect you, because some people are crushed by loss and failure of a job and they're ruined. They're not able to ever come up with one again. And that's just not what they should do. They need to just move fast. It's like in the middle of a fight when someone punches and really knocks you and you're dizzy and you can't get up. It's like Rocky, it's like Ali. You just get up.
You gotta get up.
You go.
Yes.
Shake it off as fast as you can, because God knows I've been through so much rejection and still do go through it. But there's a power in getting older and getting wiser. And for me, being able to go on tour, and I'm in a theater, and I've got 19-year-olds with fake IDs, and I've got 75-year-olds that just want to come and see a nice person saying some things that they haven't gotten to see for a long time, because at the time there were so many comedians in Vegas that were bluish, and I'm not really as blue, even though I say I'm not, but then people will say, you were kind of blue, it's a soft R. But then I love doing family stuff. I love doing things I just did a very emotional scene that'll be on when they air the first 9 Fuller Houses, and it just took me back 30 years to when I was talking to the kids on the show, just giving a morality play and being a sensitive dad. And that's a fun character to play because it's meaningful, because there's millions of people like that are kind of not, it's not a reality for what we normally see. We usually see the brave dad or the dad that comes to, they're more gruff, more of the Tony Soprano dad. But I just love and will love, as I continue entertaining more people of more diversity from everywhere. And that makes me happy. There is no aisle that separates people when I'm performing. And in the work I do, I don't want there to be separation, because funny is funny. And there's enough great political comedians on television that I love that are doing the job that I couldn't do. I'm not made of that. I don't want to start something. I don't want to hear. I had one guy in the audience yell, "Bob, the South will rise again." And I said, "Sir, we're in Boston." So I don't understand why I don't know why he took it up to where the Tea Party was, but
right.
That's not where the Civil War took place, but other wars did. But anyway, it's really quite meaningful to bring entertainment to people, and often entertainment, if I can, that has meaning behind it.
That's so beautiful. And, you're such a master at comedy and what you do and the work you're doing to help so many people to find a cure for scleroderma. I can see why your friends and fans have so much love for you. You're just out there with a really positive message and mission, putting good things out into the world. And we just thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, your wisdom, your insight, and inspiration.
So kind. I just talk too much, that's all.
No, it's perfect. Are you kidding? My listeners, I'm sure, are just eating this up. So I just want to thank you so much for coming out today. I know, you have other things you have to get to, so I'm going to let you get to what you need to get to, and just remind everybody to go to srfcure.org. Get involved, volunteer, you can donate. Even if you do social media posting around it, help Bob raise awareness for his mission. And you can always find out more about Bob on bobsaget.com. He's on all his social platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And Bob, any last thoughts for today?
Well, I also have MySpace, which I'm really excited about. And I'm going to get Friendster and
taking it back.
and I'm married, so I'm not on Tinder. So that's
good. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much. You're so kind. Thank you.
Yes, you as well. Have a wonderful day, and thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, and thanks to all your listeners too. It's a great thing you're doing. So thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us today for the Shine Strategy Podcast. I invite you to join me at shineinsiders.com for a free masterclass where you can get more inspiration and strategies to get visible and change the world. Your voice matters. Please subscribe, rate, and share this show so we can continue to grow on this journey together. Until the next one, it's Heather Burgett, your Shine Strategist, signing off.